screens, but just a bit of background. I'm Naveen. I've been working with Srishti, now it's Srishti Manipal, since 2013, actually. And I've been part of the team which set up the early programs in Masters in Design and Bachelors in Design, Human-Centered Design, and Experience Design and Design-Led Innovation. And since till recently, till I guess, end of the previous academic year, I was administratively of managing these courses too. But now I'm just back to just being teaching and researching, and none of those administrative, load on me, which is great. But also since 2020, I've been part of Design Beku, which is a collective of design researchers, and we are actually also so the work that I do through Design Beku and my research informs what I teach and informs the curriculum and vice versa. So we'll talk about that a bit. I'm going to talk in the context of the postgraduate design education at Srishti. This is not the official version, but this is my understanding of the official version of the curriculum. The official version is under second round of flux happening right now. So I'm not claiming any official version of it, but the postgraduate program started we have had what is known as a diploma program, and then in about 2015 we moved to making it more formal as an MDes and an MA and an M-Plan degree, and since then we have been tinkering with it, and in 2019 actually we started to stabilize it into what is known as inquiry-based learning. Irrespective of what course or what kind of human-centered design or industrial design or visual communication that you come into, there's a basic structure that you engage with that fosters transdisciplinarity, and also that fosters a way of inquiry-driven, so exploratory, curiosity-led and research-driven. Research, again, in a very broad sense, which is research in and for and through design, and not necessarily research that is very, how do I put it, natural sciencey or social sciencey. Research that is also through making and more creative research. What is important in this very messy slide is basically, as the students come in, for every semester, they have this kind of a twin part of the semester where there are some units of learning from Learning Hub that they can pick and choose. And then there's something called as Writing Center, units of learning there. And then that's half of the semester, and then half of this, and units are basically studios. And then the other half of the semester, they do 7-week research exploration along with the research lab and center or an individual faculty across art and design, again choice-based, and then they repeat it every semester leading to a capstone. So it kind of, they build their intellectual as well as exploratory work over time, right since semester one. I'm particularly going to talk about one of the units that have been tinkering with, but have kind of come to a stage where I'm quite happy about how it is shaping out. That is being offered as part of what is known as the Writing Center. And Writing Center is largely not only about writing, but it aims the larger sort of theory and understanding units of learning at Srishti for postgraduate program. So I don't know about you folks. When I did my master's program at IDC, we didn't really have any theoretical, explorations. We didn't read much. We were only, made to work in the workshops, except for one theory class by Professor K.T. Trivedi, which was Indian Thoughts and Traditions, which is mostly a seminar where he lectured and we listened. But I think the curriculums all over design schools have shifted now, and more critical approaches to understanding the context of design have been emerging. And so the Writing Center at Srishti offers such units. And the way that the curriculum works is the Learning Hub studio units run from Monday, Tuesday, and Thursdays, 3 days a week. Wednesday is a free day for postgraduate students at Srishti. There's no taught, nothing, no engagement. You can do whatever you want. It's called as independent day. And Fridays are the studios for the writing, the theory and unit under, kind of thing. And these Fridays, they continue over 10 weeks. So with a break in between for 2 weeks. So it's basically 10 sessions of 3 hours each, plus 3 hours of work time. So I'm going to talk about one such studio, and then we can dig deeper into how this informs and what is the motivation. Okay, so the unit that I'm talking about is called as Histories of Human and Digital, and it's one of the core units or studios that is listed for human-centered design, but it is something that is open to any of the postgraduate students to sign up for. And it's offered in the first semester, but is also open for the third semester as choice-based navigation. The provocation has always been about, I mean, what I would do is I think I'll move on to the. Can you see a shift in document, all of you?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so is this document visible? Shall I zoom in? Okay. So the way that actually, thanks to pandemic, the way I teach has changed quite a bit. Now I do explicit documentation before, through, and after the studio. I never documented my studios before pandemic. But now, thanks to pandemic, because we had to manage, online learning, and I personally realized that a lot of learning happens asynchronously, and synchronous learning is not so valuable at all when you're doing it online and remotely. So, and asynchronous learning means a lot of explicit documentation from my side. So that helped anyway. So this is, so one way that I document is through Google Docs, and also extensively use Notion, but that's for different studios. So this studio was started. I've kind of offering this since 2015 onwards at Srishti in various forms. And that was, the inspiration was actually by Bill Buxton. When I heard his talk in one of the Kai sessions in Canada, Toronto, I think, I don't remember, where he was provoking us, and he has this idea of long nose of innovation, which is that the technological ideas that that emerge on the surface have been working below the radar for 20 years before. And he has this amazing Buxton collection. It's also a digital collection as much as physical, where he has this really old school gadgets, and it's basically a repository of all the sort of cool digital input devices, output devices, any kind of interactive technology. And in his book, Sketching for User Experience, he talks about how the rest of the design disciplines have a course on history, whereas interaction design hardly has any course on history. And that setup started me inspired about, we should do something around history of technology. So initially, I just kind of followed what Bill Buxton does, is kind of track. So for example, you take the iPad, which was released in iPhone, which was released in 2008 or 7. But then there's and if you look at the multi-touch guest interface and interaction, and you can trace back to multiple different ideas and prototypes and patents in the history. So that became the fundamental kind of a course. So how do we trace back and look at what is the kind of lineage of these ideas? That's how I started this course. But over the time, I've been making it a bit more explicit in terms of it's also kind of using it to put a lens on who gets to innovate, who gets to build, who gets to talk about it. So it is kind of linked to this idea of whose imagination of the human and digital technology are we looking at. So the provocation is, what particular idea of the human have the digital technologies in India, and this particular one focus on India, have considered, centered, and created in their evolution from their imaginations to manifestations. Again, the other inspiration has been Lucy Suchman, where she talks about how it is important for us to question where the imagination of what technology could be or should be is coming from, and which also talks about a certain imagination of the human who is engaging with this technology. So how we need to look for other different imaginations and not only rely or follow the Silicon Valley imagination. So these were some of the kind of starting points. Um, the objective as such is to understand how specific digital technological imaginations have evolved with and within the Indian political geography through mapping specific histories of digital technological artifacts. And this was the first time I was doing it for focusing on the Indian subcontinent. So I had to kind of compile a lot of reading from, for the studio, and that was really fun. So the learning outcomes were 3, and most of them were looking at understand how to ask questions of digital technological artifacts, to understand the relationship to specific social, cultural, economic, and political context of their design and imagination. Basically, how do we look at a technology and try to understand and ask questions so that we try to know more about in what social, cultural, political, and economic context was this imagined, right? So can we think through the through the artifact to know more about the other intangible aspects, understand how to deduce as well as abduct or interpret speculative histories through reading across and through multiple sources, and sometimes conflicting and incomplete sources of information. So again, trying to kind of see if some of us can be a bit amateur historians too. Designers, we always have this kind of future looking, but can we also learn how to look back and learn from that? Understand how to communicate. Yeah, this is fairly straightforward. And I have some of studio rules about what you get and what you bring, and how it's a safe space for discussion and all that. I won't. Yeah, I would like to bring about this attendance and assessment policy, because also what I've largely seen, and again, this is my personal take, is that design education in India is moving more towards a very sort of numerical grading, and that is shaping how students sign up, what they expect, what they learn, as well as how the feedback happens in many different ways. So I have an open attendance policy that I will not track attendance, and it's open, and you can come, sit in, work, and the assessment is based on your work, and there's a minimum grading that everyone gets, which is a B+ out of, yeah. So I overgrade. I always overgrade, because again, it's a kind of my own kind of stance around things of grading. But yeah, I'll not go deeper into it unless there's a question. At Srishti, the assessment criteria is based on what is known as the capabilities model, and as well as studio habits, which is from Louis Hetland's Studio Habits of the Mind. So capabilities are, like every course has a set of core capabilities which are transferable. They're not necessarily linked to a particular skill or a technology. So for this unit was about how ideally by after finishing this 10-day unit, people would be able to see and connect and build a particular understanding about technological artifact and its history. We also have something called as dimensions of practice. So this is informed practice, as in the capability to understand and take on one's position on the development in the field of the study, which is history of technology. And the habit is something that they do repeatedly through the studio. So the main studio habit was reflection. How do you learn to think and talk with others about your own work? And we have a continuous assessment policy, A1, A2, A3. Again, I will talk about it as the lesson plan comes in. I was a bit ambitious, to be honest, and I'm offering this unit again starting in August, and I'll be less ambitious based on the feedback. So this we had in the studio, we read together. The other thing that has emerged for me, I don't know about other institutions. As I said, in IDC when I was doing masters, we hardly were told to read anything. I'm sure it has changed now, except AJ sir, who's here, I can see, used to ask us to read papers. Hi, sir. Read Chi papers. But apart from, and I took an elective of AJ sir. But apart from that, there were not really any engagement with reading, any kind of reading, literature or anything. So, but I think that kind of idea of design as making only continues, and so it becomes quite challenging for somebody who want design students to read. So I've understood that we need to scaffold them over time, and the best way to do it is to read with them. So that's what I do. So in the 3 hours we read together specific portions, and I have figured out a way to do it also and annotate together using something called as hypothesis. I'll show what does that mean. I'm sure some of you may be using this tool called as hypothesis. It has its limitations, but it also works. And then there was this kind of a group project, which which the idea was they take a piece of technology, most likely apps that are largely about rooted in India, and look at where are the imaginations coming from. But in the kind of ambitious work here, the group projects didn't go anywhere, which is okay. We kind of recalibrated it. Yeah, the other thing that we do extensively also, at least I like to do, is to use Discord also as a way for communication and teaching. I'll just quickly show what does that mean. Sorry, this is, so I don't know how many of you are on Discord, how many of you know. So basically this is, yeah. So I invite them, there are some safe rules, then we have conversations where they can ask questions. What is important is there are these resources.
So, Naveen, we can't see your Discord page if you're showing that right now.
Thanks for letting me know.
I think we are only seeing your browser.
Okay. Now I think you can see. Great. So so there is yeah, just kind of house rules and conversations where everybody starts talking about any clarifications, also sharing some resources. But yeah, resources becomes a bit more kind of a repository. Will have access to the older conversations too. So the idea, I mean, this is again something that we learned through the pandemic of working with digital technology of learning, that you could have a more continuous conversations across batches and stuff like that, which I think personally is quite exciting. I'll move back to the document. Right. Okay, so yeah, so there were two modes, as I was saying. One was reading through the case studies, and the other was group project. So just before I talk about the day-wise man, I'd also like to talk about this hypothesis tool, which was, yeah, I'm sure some of you would be using this. Just let me know if you can see the redirected. No? Okay, I'll just. See the, okay, great. So this is, yeah, this is I don't know if it's open source though, but you can, it's a browser based thing where you can create a personal library, group library, invite people, and yeah, so anything that is online with an URL, you can read it together and annotate it. So for example, I found this really interesting do you see that it's moved to the next link? Okay, great. So this is an amazing, again, the kind of media that I compiled was not only research papers, but also bloggers. And this was about the early Indian internet and how, sorry. Kapoor was also the early Indian internet users, and he ran a group, a message board group. So, with hypothesis, you can start reading them, and you can annotate them. People can ask questions, and you can reply to them. So it also becomes a discussion on reading, more social, and I think it works well with the current way of how the social media has enabled us to interact. But so my role is to kind of shape the discussion, but also make sure that the comments don't become YouTube comments, and they remain sane and they remain, yeah. So with that, the week-wise plan was every week. I had 5 weeks with some thematic ideas that I curated personally, and then there was some time for catching up reading and discussion and everything. So the first week was charting the origins of democratic imagination, book by Ornette Cheney about how India became democratic. And the first chapter of the book is called Designing for Democracy, where she traces how the Constituent Assembly Secretariat went about enrolling the population of India before independence to create the first electoral rolls. And she calls it designing for democracy, and the way that the bureaucratic imagination shifted from colonial bureaucracy to this idea of working and involving everyone. And so there was a lot of kind of, and then the enrollment is the technology that we're looking at, which is now manifested for say in Aadhaar, for example. So and then we also read, so then that was the main piece, and then there were some alternate, kind of supporting pieces just to get a sense of what does history and design and technology mean. So we read H. Kumar Vyas's amazing book on design history, and then of course the India report was a supplementary reading, and the other group read Seeking Begumpura, the first chapter by Gil Ombet. And then I started writing these kind of lead questions for them to read. So when they're reading, it's important to look at what to do, what to read. And to support that, then there was also kind of this weekly summaries that they have to write. Can you see that I moved to the next document? Yeah, just to kind of quickly go through. So they had these kind of lead questions, and they had to kind of summarize what does that mean. And later on in the studio, so okay, I'll come to that. So then the next week was around gendered imaginations in technological histories, again, curating some specific lenses to look at histories with some specific examples too, that I kind of brought together. And week 4 was digital ID, surveillance state, and Kormangla dreams. Kormangla dreams is again a chapter in the book. I'm not much fan of the rest of the book. It's by The Gilded Age of Kormangla in the Midnight's Machine by Arun Mohan Sukumar. But there are also other kind of very interesting stuff that all talked about the public digital infrastructure kind of a vision, Second Life and other prehistories of the Web 2.0 in India. So before, like, how was internet in the 90s and 2000s, and what did we do? Some of us who used internet back then. Then, yeah, week 6 was revisiting, some more time for studio group activities and stuff like that. And then week 8 was constructing the Silicon Valley of India. So how did there's an amazing lot of history about Silicon Valley that we now take for granted. Linked to the politics in Bangalore, and also I guess in Hyderabad, linked to real estate development, politics of it, and the idea of urbanization, and of course caste. And realized that the group project was not really going forward. So we just kind of parked it there. And then finally, we did a kind of a discussion session where they shared their work, and I was happy to have my friend Srishti, who was at Srishti, but now is at Nagar, who did a PhD on the history of Indian Constitution. He was there to give comments and feedback. So that's about what I wanted to share now. And I'll pause now and then maybe take questions and stuff like that. Yeah.
Can we just ask questions?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so just wanted to, I think so. Thanks for, I'm sorry I joined late. You can see I'm moving into my new office and we are
Very nice
setting up
office,
classrooms just outside. So we're still shifting tables. But just I had a quick question. I don't know if you set this up in the beginning, so I apologize. But you know, so there is this constant tension, and I'm asking this. Well, I made a let me actually start by telling you a story. I made a comment that I probably should have not made.
Hello, Naira.
Yeah. So I made a comment saying something like, you know, perhaps there is too much of social science in design education. I said there's too much of social science in IDC. Okay. And I shouldn't have said that, but I was just kind of reacting to this idea. And then actually I got rightfully so a retort saying that, you know, social sciences, HSS are supposed to make a person more critical of their own work and of the worldview and so on. And that I totally agree. However, there is like, you know, how much of social science should there be in design education and how much design education should there, I mean, the rest of design education. So actually, there is a lot of dimensions to humanities. There is social sciences, there is psychology, there is economics, there is language studies, and so on. And then within that whole spectrum, so actually one needs to be history. You talked about history, so but also I would kind of put that in social sciences. And how much of it should be there? And I actually, because remember, everything that you add to the curriculum, you add it at a cost of something else. So if you kind of double the amount of social science that we include in the curriculum, it's not going to make people any more critical than they already are in that sense, right? So that is my question. So have you ever felt that way, that, you know, like ultimately people would come to a designer and the designer should be able to design, make things, right? Rather than, so that was my question is in that direction. So
I understood your question. No, I think I'm kind of I see your point. So the curriculum structure was that this was actually just a 10-day unit on the Fridays, which is offered as a theory and understanding, as a choice based. So the studios are different. So they have choice based design studios where they kind of engage in more kind of what would be known as designerly activities, making, knowing, understanding. But I guess my own personal, I mean, that's a curriculum thing, but my own personal thing is I see a lot of promise in how design methods could also be engaged with as a way of critically understanding issues that are not visible. And that's a lot of interesting work like that's happening in HCI, where the act of making, which is designerly, and act of speculative, not necessarily like this scientific, science fiction kind of visions, but very here and now ideas can bring forward issues or aspects of the system that are otherwise invisible. So for me personally, I feel that kind of intersection between design technology and humanities broadly are always very interesting. This particular unit, I guess, there was this the goal was to bring in a bit more, balance it out with what broadly I would say is creative speculative histories through the group project, but then that was way too ambitious to do on a 10-day unit, so I had to kind of do that. But also looking at, they have other studios to do that, so this became more about reading and writing and developing those skills. But I get your point, and I think I kind of agree that it's not, this kind of, I personally don't think that it's valuable to think of these in kind of these disciplinary binaries, but there's a lot of promise in seeing the overlaps Yeah.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
If there are any other questions, you could either put in the chat or ask directly.
Yeah, can I ask one question from you? Yeah, hey, my name is Range. I'm from Hyderabad. Yeah, I know a couple of people, Pallavi and another Joshar. Hi, sir, it's been long time. Okay, whatever. Hello, sir, it's a very good like curriculum. My point of view only for it's not curriculum, just talk about only for industries. Many curriculums is going with only for like a student, like that kind of things. But I'm expecting more like industrial. Why? Because the students, whatever it may be, they become do like something we need to clear the problems as a designer or UX. He has to take care of the problems, social problems, whatever industrial problems. We need expecting that kind of curriculum. I couldn't say anywhere and not here, many places. But why didn't think that kind of those things? We need to try to educate the people. We need to educate the like industrial. That's a problem here. Like a present IT problem. So how can I like recycle that these things?
Are you asking questions around why the curriculum is not oriented towards industry expectations?
Perfect.
That
Correct.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry for interrupt because
No.
this is my pain. I have like 8 years experience as a designer. Present I'm working like a consultant designer. I have like couple of things. When I was hiring like the juniors, they're thinking their mind up to only for like curriculum like academic level. That is not we are expecting. Industry expecting solve the problems. What is towards problem? That's I'm expecting for that.
I
Yesterday,
understand.
yesterday I have a very practical problem to my juniors. I give some problem. We need to doing like research, the practical research. They don't know how to do that. They are always thinking only for like academic level. I'm thinking out of the boundaries, industrial things. That's I'm
I
expecting.
understand. No, I understand. So I can okay. I used to have an answer for this, but I have a different question now. So the answer before was that shouldn't be an academics problem at all. Because if industry wants industry-ready designers, they should invest in education and invest materially by offering scholarship, by doing the training of helping in academia to build that kind of a resource pool that industry wants. But I think over the years, even as Srishti has started to claim fees that are astronomical, I would say, and and I know you're putting this on YouTube, but that's okay. Any other private design school, I don't think so. I working in a private design school has the right to say that anymore. Maybe if I was an IDC, I would have said that because that's a public institution, and it is a public institution. The role of education institution is not, especially higher education institution, especially in the current era, is not to prepare human resources to the industry. If industry wants that, industry need to put the scheme in the game and do their own higher education. The role of higher education is to build conscious citizens who can approach change in the way that is thoughtful. So that's kind of an ideal position, but I can't take that position anymore. So, but I think what would be interesting for me now, or what my position now is, what would be that value that we're offering for the kind of fees that we're charging. It's not just the industry, right? Because industry, again, if you look at it, particular skills come, skills go. But what's that long-standing abilities that we could offer? I personally, and the institution, for somebody who's coming in for 2 years and investing so much of their time, and what's the return of investment? Are those capabilities that are transferable, that they can move and think through? Whether we are doing a good job of that or not, we'll have to see. But definitely that's the position that we are taking. And I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, well, that's mostly that's cover question. That's a problem because I met many people, students, because I'm the one of the student. I'm agree for that. But it's a keep on changes the interest is. We have to like analyze what is exactly a basic problem. We are not expecting that kind of like the students. So I don't know why people like thinking that way. At least we have to change as academic level. I think that's a problem. For example, I would say some example because this is a pain. Just students is training just traveling only for a bullet trail. Still that academic lessons only for like what is that, like a charcoal train, like this kind of those things. That is a problem, like a fundamental problem. I think so. That is a we need to change the designing system. in that
But
way.
the industry should invest in the education and higher education. How much of Indian industry invest in higher education? Hardly. There's hardly
Yeah.
any funding coming from industry. So I don't think the industry has any right to say design education should change unless they invest materially.
Essentially, even academic year, essentially we have to do something. What I want learn, I want to apply industry. That is essentially, that is the things, right? So we can't leave it only for my academic level. Once I'm learning, I have to apply industry. I want to do something. I want to learn something. I have to solve the problem in society, whatever social income, whatever things. I'm thinking that way, but we couldn't find out that kind of knowledge in academic level. I'm sorry to say, not only you, but the curriculum is very good. Seriously, I'm appreciate forward. That is not enough. It's a keep on changes every day because of technology. We are in society. We have to think that kind of way. Why do you think that way? That is a problem. Because recently I worked for like a couple of MNC, not MNC, outdoor projects, own projects. This thinking advanced level. We couldn't expect that kind of curriculum in Indian things. That is a problem here. Even I'm not right. Even I'm not right person to like take it next level, but at least as a like institution level, with that we need to educate students that kind of level, basic level. Maybe we can
Because
psychological.
of the time, and also I have to catch a train. But
Yeah,
there are
and there
two
are many
questions.
other
Yeah, and
questions.
then I
Yeah,
think
Adi,
also other presenters. I don't want to cut in
I
their
respect.
time.
I respect. Yeah. I respect.
So Kinnari and Rasage have two questions. Quickly, I'll respond to that. Kinnari, thank you. The student, so this is not a capstone project, it's a 10-day unit. The deliverables were mostly the project mapping, which I'll share the link to this file with comment access anyway, through the whatever email. But the student projects essentially looked like summaries of what they have read and what they have understood. So it became a position statement rather than a project. And no how to discourse analysis. So that was not the focus. It was just kind of, it was very amateurish in that sense, just to kind of, what does our curiosity lead its history and technology and its history in a very amateur way. So yeah, that I hope that answers Kinnari's question. Rasige is, how has the response been for the studio course and how has it evolved over the years? What has been your ways of evaluating the course and improving it? Thanks, Rasige, for that question. The studio has been like this one that I taught. The other challenge was I had 27 students, and that becomes a huge number when we had to read and also be making. But before that, as I said, the studio has gained a bit more critical in terms of looking at it from also borrowing from the humanities perspective. So from moving from Bill Buxton's idea of a very designerly history to a bit more complicated, bit more problematizing the narrative of technology. That's how it has evolved. And the feedback has always been, I don't go through institutional feedback because I never receive them. I have forms, but also discussions. Forms work, anonymous forms work because often students who are not comfortable speaking can also share. And these forms are not necessarily on a Likert scale. They are more, they invite them to redesign this unit with me. How would they change and stuff like that. So the feedback that I've got from previous time and this time is I want to reduce the thematic, kind of things and take them slow and have a bit more of doing. I mean, that's the feedback that all design students give. We are more comfortable doing. Yeah. Question on archiving, sharing publicly. What constraints, concerns prevent you from sharing? No, that's a great question. I want to do this all publicly, and that's something that I discuss with students too. I'm only concerned is not revealing student work unless they are comfortable doing it, because it's very vulnerable for them to articulate. So that's a tricky bit, and that's why I'm not releasing them publicly yet. The kind of structure and all and the readings is fine, but just the student work is something that needs a bit more co-curation between me and the students. The other challenges, there's hardly any time, at least in the way the Srishti curriculum is, we jump from 5 weeks to 5 weeks to 5 weeks. So anyway, so that's always a challenge. Thanks. And yeah,
Professor
I
Naveen,
think,
we have one more question by Manisha. Let's take that and then we can.
okay, great. Yeah, thanks.
Hi. Thank you, Naveen. I think that was a great share. My question was in response to the earlier question that Janku had put in. But I think the most important thing is not the fight between industry facing and what we want to do as design education, but more contextual in a way. And your course, when I look at it very objectively, really looks at or integrates how should I work ahead? I mean, if that link is managed, so you're not really um, posing questions here or making your answers or deductions, but really it's a case study kind of a way of looking at it, and that applies directly into solutioning when we go into the industry. But many a times our curriculums, like you said, because of the challenge of time or scaling of design education, they don't map out this link. So the students also feel that I don't know what I'm getting from it, or maybe they don't know how to link it when they go
Yeah.
out and work in the industry. So what's your view on that?
No, I definitely agree. It has to, I mean, as educators, we need to help the students to make connections of what they do and how the practice unfolds. I wouldn't even say industry, it's a practice. So how that practice beyond the 2 years can unfold based on what they are learning here is a role of the education institutions to help them make those connections in different ways. And that's why the project spaces are all about that. And reflecting on that, what does being practicing in this mean, could mean for them both economically, but also as as a part of any kind of context that they go and work with, whether it's not for profits, whether it's policy, or whether it's industry. And that's a point well taken, and it's something that the institutions have to definitely make space for in the curriculum. I don't see any institutions making explicit spaces, for example, reflection points or projects or anything that helps them do that. Everything is output oriented. Everything is produce the prototype, produce an app, or produce something. But I think personally, I do value. And what happens is because you make a connection with students keep coming to you. So there's a lot of work that goes invisible and what is known as this invisible mentoring, where through discussion
I
you would
get
just
that.
end up doing it. But definitely point well taken. I think the institutions must have a formal space for that. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor Naveen. It was definitely insightful. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So moving ahead to the second speaker of the special session, initially Professor Mamta Rao was introduced to the speaker, but due to some unavoidable reasons, she couldn't be available with us. But today we have Professor Jagrati Galpade. She's an accomplished educator and a co-lead of interaction design discipline at NID. With over 15 years of experience in design education and design industry, she holds an MA in Fine Arts and Advanced Diploma in Learning Development. Her background also includes learning development, working on diverse projects for corporate sectors and heritage initiatives. Since joining NID in 2004 to the faculty development program, she has been actively teaching and their students at NID Bengaluru, focusing on various aspects such as basic design, user experience, immersive technology, and more. Her contributions to coordinating workshops and enhancing digital prototyping abilities in interactive design programs are noteworthy. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Richa. That was very kind of you to, bring the elaborate. Well, in the interest of time, I have very clearly adhered to the guidelines that has been shared with me, and my main objective here is to share with the members here the curriculum of interaction design, which I'm leading now at NID Bengaluru, and it's a master's design program. And it's an overview. You can take my presentation, or the information that I'm sharing here is basically an overview to the entire curriculum of interaction design at NID Bangalore from 2007 which was earlier, it was called Design for Digital Experience, and the rename happened in 2014, where we started to call it Interaction Design. So let me just take a minute and I'll be able to share with you the presentation. Please let me know if you're able to see the slides.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, great. So this is, you've already given my introduction. Additional points, if you can glance through, is I'm very much, my work also lies in working on the new age interactive systems and services. That's my inclination. And India-specific interactions in today's time really intrigue me, and that's what I keep pushing in all my assignments, teaching. Indian aesthetics is very, very important and pertinent to be taken up in all kinds of design teaching in academics. Over and above, I'm also a theater artist, voiceover artist. I was a radio drama artist. I'm not doing all these things now, but I've been empaneled for Gyan Darshan channel. I don't know, the young generation really knows that Doordarshan had a channel where they had, they used to broadcast lessons. And of course, love for watching films is what I also do. Quickly just taking you through this multidisciplinary program in which is called Masters in Interaction Design. We try and make our students understand and be able to create meaningful and engaging experience. Experience is the key to the interaction. And with digital products, services, and systems. And so these are the core offerings that the discipline has. We do provide students the knowledge and skill to design user-centered and innovative interactive experiences. And in all our modules, projects, the aim is looking at user-centered and innovative experiences. Let me just give you a glance of a very, it looks like a very odd thing, but this is our life. This is, we called our timetable. It looks like that. I know Rasagya here would be able to relate to, because he was also part of these. So these blocks that you see are these are different modules. So you can see some of them are smaller modules, some of them are mid 3 to 4 weeks, some of them are big 6 to 10 weeks module. And this is how we handle our courses, which fall one after the other. So nothing happens together in a day. So like there are no 2 classes happening in one day. It's one module we dedicate. It is called block module system. Then I will take you through what is our interaction design program at NID is 2.5 years, a very robust and well set program from 2007, well tested, but of course nothing is toned into or frozen into something. We always work towards improving our curriculum, because interaction design space, digital space, the technologies keep on changing, and we have to evolve with the technology and with the time. So we'll just give you a glance of what it is about. As I told you, my presentation is giving you an overview of what the curriculum of interaction design really is and what it offers as part of the master's program. We are divided into 5 semesters. And if you look at how the semester 1 goes and how semester 2, 3, and 4, and so on and so forth, you will see that we dedicate these semesters to certain thematics. I wouldn't say thematic, but certain understanding that the students would be able to gather or get through. Semester 1 is mostly design fundamentals, where, because the students are coming from varied backgrounds, also working professionals who are now trying to gain some more, learning experience. So we make it, we orient our students, the new students, to this field of design. And you will see we have a lot of courses which are called common courses across the different disciplines. And the ones that you see in blue color, they are the ones that are specifically for interaction design. So we kind of seep in those information and understanding of the discipline itself from the first semester, but we do it we don't bombard them in the first semester, but that's how they evolve. So you will see introduction to design, science and liberal arts, fundamentals to visual design and design process is something all disciplines take it. But fundamentals of interaction design, the beginning of our interaction design specific course, digital media and visualization, which kinds of brings an ability to be able to visualize interactions in the digital space, and the workshop where we kind of give them some inputs into digital photography, where they can, you know, also understand how photography is a medium to which helps presentation in communication and presentation of interactions. So this becomes our first semester. Science and liberal arts and design process is a theoretical course, and fundamentals of visualization is a studio course, which is graded differently. I'll take you through how we have the grade system for all these courses. Once in the first semester, and you'll see first semester does not have a project. It has coursework. So which means that the whole understanding that begins to start to build for interaction designers takes in little time and will develop in the second semester. So which is dedicated to two-dimensional user interface, which means we are looking at screen-based, web-based inputs, and also projects that the students would come up with. So here again, there are courses which are theoretical in nature. So what you see, Design Management 1, where they are introduced to understanding of management, basic understanding of what management is all about and how designers will be helped by understanding the basics. And Science and Liberal Arts. Science and Liberal Arts is a course which is like a capsule. I call it a capsule course. I also lead this course at Bangalore campus. So the first and second semester course is a common course, which means first semester we give them introduction to aesthetics, which goes very well with the fundamentals. Second semester we give them how should you know Indian society. So introduction to Indian society is the course that we give in Science and Liberal Arts. And these are two courses that are common for all disciplines. And what is specific for interaction design here is design project, which is into system thinking, where we look at social innovation and impact. Basically, our understanding is for any interaction designer, looking at mega picture is very, very important. So we try to bring that aspect from the first semester, second semester itself, where the design project 1 is being they work on, which is 6 weeks long project, and they try and understand what system thinking is all about. How can they look at the big picture? Design research, which is very much specific to understanding the research methods applied in design. Interactive instructions is a course which is much more to do with how can you create interesting and innovative interactions. So whenever we talk about UI, user interface and user interactions, the first thing that students would come up with, do I follow the Google guideline? Do I follow the guidelines that are specs that are there? I said, why don't you make your own guidelines? So this is what we try and bring them to. And they specifically look at physical and digital interactions. So which means that the examples of the work that, ATM machine or any vending machine, how can innovative interactions happen over there? So we encourage them to come up with their own interactions and spec for that particular project. We also handhold them in terms of, you see something called workshop. And these workshops are basically those places where any newer technology that is right now people are working on, or it's very popular, or which is something that the students need to learn, and they will be very inquisitive about it. So here we begin them to, we begin with making them understand what physical computing is. What are these embedded systems? And, using Arduino and sensors, they come up with a lot of interesting small concepts, and they realize these concepts in the 1 and 2 weeks long workshop space. And this kind of gives them a lot of strength in visualizing the technology. And so the adherence of their concepts into technology becomes much more easier. Open elective is an interdisciplinary academic space where this 10 days workshop module is for across the campuses, which means it's an elective course. So we invite people, so there are a lot of proposals that I invited, and a lot of experts and academicians, educators from all over the world apply, write proposals to give their workshops. And this is what students pick. So each elective kind of have 15 to 20 students, and which is an interdisciplinary group, which means that an interaction design student will be working with a textile designer, a graphic designer, a transportation designer, whoever has, registered for this course. So these
video, audio.
Sorry? Any questions? All right, I think somebody's. All right, so these open elective is an interdisciplinary space, is for all. And all the students kind of take this 10 days workshop across the 3 campuses. As you go into the 3rd semester, you are much more looking at 3-dimensional, 3D immersive spaces. And that's where you kind of look at projects into dynamic virtual environments, where introduction to augmented reality, virtual reality, immersive world, basically. So this is what is their design project, which will be an 8-week-long project, will be happening. With that, there are again incremental courses like design management 1, design management 2 will give them professional practices and procedures. And these are those 4 capsule courses which help them connect to the aspects of design, of management of design in that space. Science and liberal arts from this semester would be elective. So 3 courses would be, they have to pick their course from the 3 offered courses. And these courses are basically offered from people outside design fraternity, which is what I think the discussions in our previous presentations were going on. How much humanity course, how much sociology, input should be there. So for us, it's every semester, we give it as part of science and liberal art, which is called SLA module, 1-week module. And we invite experts from academia, industry, to be able to give this course to our students. It's a theoretical course. So output is mostly articulation of the thoughts and reflections of what they have learned. So suppose there can be a course in psychology. How do you understand psychology? What exactly do you need to understand in psychology? How does psychology help you as a designer? Public policy in design. Designers need to know what is the state of the matter in terms of, is there a policy that really helps them or related to them. How can music help them? So we give a variety of courses so that, there's a good mix that the students get from these courses, apart from what they take in their interaction design specific courses. Information design and visualization is also a very important input for interaction designers, which is part of the semester 3 work. Multimodal interactions, how can these interactions be audio-based, chat-based, gestural or facial? So these are newer trends of interactions that one sees. So you will see every semester we are introducing interactions, interfaces, and experiences which are to do with the newer trends in technology. As they move on to the 4th semester, which is supposed to be the last semester in their within the institute, because the 5th semester is where they go out for the graduation projects, which is a project that they do it with the industry. So 4th semester is newer interaction. So something that they really, as I was talking to you about, overall services that they need to understand. By this time, they have a good understanding of the system. And towards this time, they are able to actually bring in good projects, socially relevant projects, which cater to a larger audience, and how they can come up with the newer paradigms of interaction in those projects is the theme that we expect our students to do their design projects in. Tangible user interface is an input. And so if you will see the students that have got inputs in physical computing, multimodal interactions, information designs, dynamic environments, augmented virtual reality, tangible user into QUIs. Now, this is the semester where they are open and we give them a lot of freedom to make use of any of these and come up with their projects. And that's why we say that these are newer interactions that they look at. We also, as in the previous semester, handhold them with workshops. These spaces give them good understanding of how they can make use of sensors, and the technology. So we also call that hybrid because we keep it open. Whatever is new, whatever is what the students need at that point of time, we offer them with that. So that space is something that can be worked a little bit more every semester. So when they come to the 5th semester is basically the semester when they go out of the campus and they look for internships, which are 4 to 6 months long. And these internships are with industry. For that, we have our industry interface where a lot of companies come to NID to offer these, internships. We call them graduation projects to the students, and students then, based on what their interests are, will be picking and choosing to work in the industry. And this is based on the portfolio that they have created all throughout the 3-4 semesters, the work that they have done. And usually the outcome of the project is a documentation, and that will be graded by the guide, which is from the institute as well as from the industry that they're working on. Evaluation is two-way evaluation, one internal by the guide internally at the institute, and other evaluation which is more with the members, 4 members from internal as well as a couple of people from industry who are invited to have a look at the project outcome. So this is how our framework of 2.5 years is. Now, when you talk about learning objective, I'm not going into individual course or one particular course learning objective. As I said, I'm going to give you an overview. I'm saying our goal of the curriculum is twofold. We want to make specialists and we also want to give inputs into generalists. So it's very important for a designer to also be generalist, because otherwise you are cast a shell in a particular way. You can't modulate, you can't work with your own interests. You'll only go by the way the industry takes you. So a lot of these courses, some of the courses that we give, which deals with user experience design, design research, these are must-have. These are something a core interaction designer must have. Interaction and interface design, prototyping and evaluation, design methods and tools they need to know, user research and empathy, very important for them when they go out for research in any project that they're doing. Ethical and social considerations, which are part of the research and also the outcome. Collaborative and cross-disciplinary abilities, these are must-haves. Technical skills and tools. Technical skills and tools, by the way, we are not forcing people to do it because we feel that a know-how of a certain extent is good enough. If people are coming from engineering backgrounds and they have skills, technical skills, it's well and good. And we encourage peer learning in the classroom, so that NID doesn't give any courses in technical teaching or technical training. And we expect our students to learn from each other, because we have a good mix of students who have technical background as well as visual background. And that's integration, that's what we say, cross-pollination of different kinds of abilities that we look at. Generalist, that's what I said, some of the courses are there which support an interaction designer, and one of them is information design. Visual communication is another one. Newer technologies, it's not must have, it's good to have. Critique and iteration, something that you should be well averse with. Industry engagement, we do give them, we allow them to explore their spaces. And of course, lifelong learning. There's always a room to learn every new thing here and there. So this is our goal of the curriculum. If you talk about our alignment with industry needs and emerging trends, yes. I very much would like to go with the discussions that happened earlier as well about how much should you adhere to industry requirement and how academics should be different. I also feel that academics should be a pivotal, play a pivotal role where, because of the, I'm waiting for the day when because of the academics, there are certain changes in industry, or, otherwise we are adhering to a lot of industrial requirement, but I'll be very, very happy if, things happen the other ways. So we have a lot of formats in which we interact with our industry and with the emerging trends. So our graduation projects, which I just shared about, students seeking internship opportunities in the leading firms and the companies. That's where we engage with industry. Sponsored classroom projects is a space where, when I showed you about design projects in every semester, we have we have not every time, but a lot of times we have experienced a very good synergy when industries sponsor some of our classroom projects. And we have experienced a couple of these examples earlier: Nokia, Toshiba, Tata Digital in our recent design projects. And of course, it's a win-win situation for both academics and the students, because students also get to know the existing practices in the industry and learn from them, as well as for them to be able to take up interesting concepts from the process. Visiting experts from the industry, which we rely on. There is not all the expertise that we have in-house. So we rely on a lot of expertise that are available in the industry, and they are empaneled with us. And in the form of guest lectures, technical skills, trainings, and newer technology, because that's not something that we have. That's not our core. Our core is conceptual, design process, core design, understanding. But whenever it's comes to newer technology, we definitely get people from outside. Participation in industry events, hackathons, competitions, which our students frequently and go and participate, win a lot of competitions. So this is how we engage with industry and align with industry. What are the different teaching and methods and approaches? Well, we have something called design studios where we have workshops on newer technology. So, making, doing hands-on, using the physical, electronic as well digital tools. We have theory courses, which gives a good mix of knowledge, a new knowledge, making connections to design. We have project-based learning where we have in our design projects, we sometimes have live projects. To give you an example, Seva Sindhu is a platform where people have their public services can be used from those platforms. So a lot of such interactions have happened previously, and that gives a good context for our students to work on these live projects. Very practical, and whatever learnings that has been learned through the semester are applied here. User research and usability testing. We don't have labs, but I think there are some testing methods which we always tell our students to ask our students to test it before, so basically design being an iterative domain, we follow those methods a lot. Prototyping and iterations. So these prototyping range from paper prototyping to low-fi, mid-fi, and hi-fi, to using digital tools to create the prototypes. Field study and site visits that are part of our learning process. A lot of our research that happens as part of the field study, or particularly some labs, workshops that need to be visited. These are the kind of spaces that are utilized here. Cross-disciplinary collaboration. I talked about there is design projects. Also, we have explored in recent past how the different disciplines collaborate and work together within one design project. So if the thematic is about service design is something that is offered as a core, project area for all the disciplines in masters. So we try and bring disciplines of retail, interaction, game design together and see how interesting projects can evolve and how we can have cross-disciplinary and collaborations to experience for the students. When I was talking about design studios, these are a couple of workshops just to give you an example of how the process goes in for a week's workshop, from ideation to the concepts which are visualized and to making real models in the workshop. And these are kind of things that so the presentations are basically working prototypes that have been created in the process, and that's one example to show you all. And practical exercises and assignments like any HCI, UX and UI methods, how heuristics evaluation, how do you really begin with making them understand what makes a good experience with the products. So these are some classroom assignments that the students are asked to do. These assignments will take a shape of some mock-ups where they experience interesting products, visualization, which are also, here you see an example of tangible interaction and how they have created prototypes, both physical as well as the virtual. We call it simulation. There are places where practical assignments where we expect them to look at a specific group. And a lot of our students are intrigued by how they can give something interesting for the people with special needs. And so if visually impaired people can be given an experience to basically to experience a space through a tactile medium. So that these are kind of explorations that they do. Industry collaboration that I was talking about, it is many folds: classroom projects, guest lectures, experience sharing, technical expertise. What happens during this is industry brings the context, they provide technical expertise, funded projects from them, which helps the students. Lot of and basically basic academic teaching is from within the faculty experts, and students get the opportunity because they can show their expertise or their creativity, and they get internships or placements through these as well. So one of the very recent was with Tata Neo, which we have explored, and it was a very good experience for our students. What has happened, what has been our learning trajectory for our students? Yes, our students, after they finish masters, have gone to universities abroad and have again, looked at these institutions for further studies. Some of them most interested in research have gone to research. Others who had much more interest in other aspects of design interaction through interactions have looked at other universities. So that is there. These are few examples of the ones that are notable. As I was talking about assessment and feedback mechanism, all these courses have assessment parameters, and there's something called a system of evaluations we call credit and evaluation systems. So you'll see different kinds of courses that we have: studio, theory, project. Everything has a different evaluation system. Semester juries are also evaluated. Graduation projects are evaluated. Projects are also evaluated by the team of experts. So if you'll see that, theory course, which is almost like 2 credits per week, and between theory, studio, and design project, you will see there's a lot of difference in terms of the credits. Design project carry much more credit than the shorter theory and studio courses. So 4 credits for 1 week. So, which is, I will not get into the depth of this because that's another level of evaluation that we need to share. So for every course, the evaluation criteria for the students are different. So what you see on the right, the product, process, presentation, general attitude, these are kind of evaluation parameters used for the jury. But for the course evaluation, we are mostly looking at conceptual clarity, reflective thinking, communication, that is articulated or shown through their presentation skills, and how they do documentation, how they manage the time. So if it's a 2-week project, how did they really manage the time? How did they participate in the classroom activities? So these are kind of mechanisms for the assessment. That's about it. As I said, that I'm going to give an overview. One of my colleague, Bhaumik, is going to join after this. So I think he will take you through a journey of one or a couple of the projects that he can share. I would be glad to take any questions if there are.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat from Kinnedy saying,
So,
what kind of technology?
Should I stop sharing it right now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
question is, what kind of technology support do you offer as an institution for something like multimodal interactions with TUI, say for instance, eye trackers? Do students get to work hands-on technology in dedicated lab environments?
So we do not have lab, first of all. And what we do is, for all these courses, we want them to understand the core of the interaction. So if it is TUI, what it really means. If it is a multimodal, what it really means. And for us, the prototyping is usually the simulations and experience prototype that we rely on. We do not have labs, unfortunately. And so I would not be able to tell you if there's a particular eye tracking, but of course there are tools nowadays that you can individually use them, but not in the academic environment where we have labs and we'll say that we have eye tracking equipment, or we have these equipment where they test it. But these are concepts, and that's why we call people from outside to review their work. So there's always a frequent review from experts while the projects are going on. And we invite people who have expertise in those, and then those kinds of information or knowledge is being given to them.
All right. There's another question from Alipta saying, is there anything on storytelling that you're covering in the design curriculum?
Oh yeah. So so that particular course is what I'm taking in their first semester, which is called as digital media and visualization. And the starting point is narrative. So we actually allow them to write the stories and produce the stories, which means that they come up with a video, either a live action. So they choose the media that they can. Some people use animation based on their expertise and how they can take it up. And that's where storytelling is involved, because storytelling is very important. Because when you talk about scenario building, persona building, you need to really look into people's life and people's experiences. So I think narrative plays a very, very important role, and we do give them.
All right. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Sure. So thanks a lot for the presentation. It was lovely. I just had I had a question about, how do you, so I saw that there were 3 projects in the second, third, and fourth semesters that students spent. And then of course they also do the 5th semester, they do the industry-based project.
Yeah.
So I had kind of 2 questions related to that. So is there, you mentioned a lot of differences and focus of each of those projects, so that I understood, but they're all design projects, right? Is there a research
Yes.
project involved? Is there a...
See, there's no research project as such, but sometimes students who are very keen in some aspects, because it's a master's design program. Some of the people have already worked in the industry, and sometimes they have some vertical in their mind that I want to work. For example, I'll just give you an example of one of the students who has worked from the 1st semester till the 4th semester for visually impaired. So all his projects were related to something about visually impaired. Now, I wouldn't say that because there needs to be an outcome for each project, though we do not say that you can't do a research project, but the students themselves do not come up with a research project. They do research as part of the project, but they do not, it doesn't culminate into research outcome.
Okay, that's one thing that I noticed. The other question I had is approximately how much time would you say students spend in these 3? So the 4th one is all 100% project work, right? So how much percentage would that be with respect to the other 3 semesters?
So all the design project in every semester have timelines, which is like 2nd semester will be 6 weeks design project.
Okay.
3rd semester will be 8 weeks, and 4th semester will be 10 weeks. Okay. So you'll see when we say major, which means that 4th semester, we really want them to come up with a good project. And that's why you see 4th semester, we expect services to look at, which takes a little longer time for them to, come up with. So that's how we have divided in our semester.
Thanks.
Alapta has asked one more question about, is there anything related to responsible AI design principles in the country?
Yeah, so as I told you, these all whatever newer technology that comes up is always, we always encourage them to use these things in their projects. So if suppose, and not just in design project, even in their modules. So suppose there is a module on multimodal or GUI, or even the 2D interactions, we expect some of them to look at these newer trends. So AI being one now, so they looked at it in terms of education, healthcare, how can this be applied? And considering that the outcome needs to be in certain aspect, the concepts or their themes can evolve. We don't restrict them from not using these into their projects or explorations. So we do. So as I said, we cannot put them into the curriculum as names, ki AI mein hai, yeah, something else, but we allow them to bring them into any individual module as well.
I think Professor Jagriti, maybe she was somewhere. I wanted to ask this question. Should there be an ethics in technology course, which?
So we have a course where we talk about research and ethics.
Okay.
We're not in Technology Institute. We are just making use of the tool. Technology is a tool. So I don't think we are rigorously using technology. But yes, of course, that's a very, very big and very, very important aspect in today's time. Because I think we are all using all kinds of mediums, of every technology. Ethics is part of all. I think some of these, when I talked about generalistic, I think ethics, I have placed it there, and specialist also, because this is core to a design education. If you're not looking at, you're not empathizing the audience from all these aspects, I think your design may just be one newer concept to be showcased. So ethics is there.
I would say I'll add one word.
Yeah.
Yeah, continue what you told me, like tools is secondary. Before that, design education, the thinking level, approach a problem, usability, that is the most important, because tools is keep on changing. It's a technology evolution.
Yeah.
Where I keep on say students only for that. That is most important in my point of view.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's true.
And then I think we're done. So yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. The presentation was lovely and it was in depth, and we all would agree to it. So yeah, moving ahead towards the final faculty in new media design program and vice activity chairperson in continuing education program at NID. With 27 years of experience, he holds a PhD in engineering technology, specializing in enhancing Sparkle query performance over the semantic webs. His impressive professional projects include solution architecture and user experience design for fast and forward and user experience, an application for MMSSL, an interface design for TCSI and digital assessment solution used globally. He has also designed interactive help manuals for primary agricultural credit societies and contributed in various web applications, including NID's website and Google Apps for email faculty. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rucha, for the introduction. And thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to share what we do at NID. Since my presentation is not about the curriculum framework, my presentation is about one specific course that I conduct in the graphic design discipline at the bachelor level. And I'll be presenting specific that course. Let me share my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah, it's loaded. Yeah, it is visible.
Okay. So since Jagriti and Naveen has talked about the framework broadly, I'll be speaking about one specific course, which is interface and process course that is at the bachelor level in graphic design discipline. Since this course is a very deliverable focused course, so I'll be very specific to the content of the course, how I have planned the various assignments, how much time we spend, how we evaluate, and then I have a couple of projects which are done by the students to showcase here. Okay, so this course, as I said, the name of the course is Interface and Process, and primarily this course focuses on the digital systems, the interfaces and experience for the digital systems. So we do not talk about the tangible user interfaces here at all in this course. Since the students are from graphic design and third year bachelor students, so these are the sixth semester bachelors in graphic design students. So they are well aware about lot of other surface design fundamentals. So hence we do not focus on that as well. But since the course expect them to come up with applicable prototype and they have to apply what they learn on everyday basis. So there are 5 pillars of this course that we have set, and there are some set of prerequisite as well that student will have to undergo on their own before they take this course. Since this is not a course where only the skills and tools are taught, right? So this is a course where how a new product or a service has been designed in the industry. That is what the focus is. And that is where the focus is on people, process, product, and environment. And the input around that those pillars are given to the students. Since the digital systems work around the world, images, space, time, and behavior, and every aspect of these 5 dimensions the student need to understand with respect to the context, with respect to the domain that they are going to work in, is been explained to them in form of case studies by taking various examples to them. And since, as I said, this is a very deliverable focused course wherein student has to produce the clickable prototype along with the process documentation. So for that, they have to understand the technology and business landscape as well, depending on, again, the idea that they have chosen to work on. So like this course is very much in line with what is happening in industry, what are the kind of processes which are being adopted by the industries. So we focus on full stack UX development. It is not only focusing on the surface design, but it is also focusing on understanding the current trends, understanding the history as well as understanding the future trends as well in terms of the technology as well as the business. Since the digital systems have grown exponentially after the invention of internet, and hence first 2 days we take student to understand how the transformation from web 1.0 to web 3.0 have traveled through, and with various examples of the kind of products and kind of services which has been introduced during each of these eras has been studied by the student. Since this course has a very detailed day-wise lesson plan, like for example, this is a 3-credit course. So that means we have 3 weeks to cover all these course content. And at the same time, student is expected to create a clickable prototype of the concept. So ideally 8 hours a day, we have 192 hours, but we expect student to work for almost 384 hours on this. And they, in fact, are working very passionately to make a clickable prototype of their idea. So since every student has to identify a real world problem which can be solved digitally. So that is their first step to enter in these course. And along the way, in fact, we expose them to a lot of interesting stuff. Like, for example, we have an one-day workshop on decoding the ethical and unethical experience design practices, right? So like wherein we have a class of around 20 students, and we work together to decode the ethical and unethical design practices. Like, to give a couple of examples here, for example, say buying a YouTube premium subscription is so easy, but canceling the YouTube premium subscription is not that easy. Or for example, buying the LinkedIn premium is easy, but canceling the subscription is not that easy, right? So there are purposefully some of the designs in the digital environment have been made complex, wherein it is not easy to reach out to by the user. So we in fact cover all these kind of aspects since they already have learned the user research and theories. So we have a focus of more often learning by doing. Actually, they learn and they have to apply every day. So that is the whole lot of focus that we have. Since the products and services and digital environment have been growing rapidly, every day you have something new on your hand, and that is where you always have to understand the landscape of technology and landscape of business as well, right? So for example, say last year, one of the students wanted to use the cryptocurrency for the in-game purchases. So he has to understand the cryptocurrencies and the game environment. Or if someone wants to use NFT on something, they have to understand it. So we, in fact, have first 3-4 days exposing them to the current trends and the future trends, and how the multi-experience environment is evolving globally, and what kind of impact it has on the technology and business landscape. That is what we try to expose them to. So other thing are focusing on the full stack UX development process. So wherein once they have an idea, which basically after brainstorming and ideation, so like we have a class of 10-20 students, so all the students will have to come up with an individual project, and ideally a class is working on 20 collaborative project, right? So you are accountable and responsible for your project, but you also have to contribute to the other project in terms of peer reviews and giving a feedback. So, and the first week we have the daily task and assignment. So every day they are supposed to work on something. I'll also share what exactly we do in the first week to address these task and assignment based daily submissions. So we in fact try to cover every small aspect of it, and we focus a lot on the process, right? So it is not the surface that we focus, like surface design is not the focus here. Surface design is only 10 to 15% of the focus, but the process is more important here. So let me share. Yeah, so objective is very clear. In fact, since they are the graphic design students, so they have a very good visual sense. They are a 6th semester student, and hence we do not have any input on typography, color, and all these things, right? So we give them pure UI UX related input. So ideally, after these 384 hours of work on these course, they should be able to evaluate and identify the UI UX in the professional environment. And what we believe is everyone who is using smartphone or the laptop are the UI or UX designer, right? So we end up evaluating a lot of things, like say, I like this on Insta, I like this on WhatsApp. So we always evaluate various products and services, right? So everyone is a UI and UX designer. So there are a lot of things which are not required to be taught in class, right? So we ask them to discover from the research. I'll take a couple of examples in the next slide that what exactly we do for that. So they should be able to identify and evaluate this. After these courses, they should be able to synthesize these knowledge. In fact, every time when I take this course, we create a rich library of a lot of things, like which has been researched and discovered by a batch of students. And they should be able to synthesize around all these frameworks and context from the various fields in the industries. And also we give a lot of emphasis on the user research, understanding the user, whether what you're doing is aligned with what user is expecting, what business is expecting, whether the technology is rightly used or not. So all those evaluations, reviews, and feedbacks are happening every day. So it is very much, in fact, aligned with the industry. So what basically we do is, as I said, it is learning by doing with minds on and hands-on and minds on, right? So it is every day there are 2 hours of session that we plan to give input on various topics, and followed by a brainstorming or a group discussion if they have any idea to discuss on. And then post-lunch, there are tasks and assignments that they are supposed to work on. So it is, in fact, a clear day-wise lesson plan is there for these courses, that what you're supposed to do on day 1, what you're supposed to do on day 2. So all 24 days are planned in these courses. Since 3 weeks is very less for these courses, and that is why, in fact, we expect them to work more on these courses to produce something, because otherwise in 3 weeks of time, you cannot produce the professional work. Like some of the work that I'll show here towards the end of my presentation. Probably some of you may be amazed at how this quality of work can be produced in 3 weeks of time, along with all the research. So since there are 20 projects, 20 different domains, 20 different areas, so wherever there is an input from the expert is required, we call them, and there are expert reviews and feedback sessions continuously happening during the course. So one of the key things why this course has become so popular at our Ahmedabad campus is students get an opportunity to work on their area of interest, right? So like suppose if you feel that you are a pet care, you are a pet lover, or suppose if you want to do something in the medical field and want to come up with some digital solution for them. So you have a choice to work on your area of interest, and that is where the students have to find out the real world problem definition and produce the end product in form of a clickable prototype. A lot of students many times are able to get the project from the industries, so they work on a live project. We also collaborate with the Technology and Management Institute for various things. For example, if any student is working on a fintech, financial technologies, any idea if the student has, then we collaborate with IIM Ahmedabad, or if any technology focused project is there where the UI UX is the key part. So we collaborate with Dhirubhai Ambani Institute of Technology as well. So depending on the project and context, we collaborate with them. Some of the practical exercises and assignments that we do is we do not teach, we ask students to discover. And we make a library, and that document is shared with the student for reference. So for example, the study of good and bad scenarios in the digital interfaces. Now the good and bad scenarios means how easily you are able to access the specific thing. For example, some services wherein the sign-up process is very complex, and some services where the sign-up is so easy, right? And so these kind of good and bad scenarios with respect to the specific domain and context, students will have to identify and document. So there are 20 students, each one of them will have to at least find out 5 good and 5 bad scenarios. And that is how we create a library of 100 good and 100 bad scenarios for the digital interfaces. And that has been done for the web and mobile interface both, right? So it's in fact, every year we keep on enriching our own library, and that is also gradually growing in terms of what is happening in the industry, right? So what are the current trends? Something which was considered as a good scenarios 5 years back probably is considered as a bad scenario today, right? So that is how the library helps us to understand how the best practices in interaction and interface design is growing in the industries. Similarly, we also focus on the controls, icons, the language that you use on the surface, right? So what is considered as good and bad, and how they are able to link it with the various material libraries which are there, like Google Material Library. So that also they have to do, right? So we do not give any input because, as I said, every user is a designer these days because we are exposed so much to the digital interfaces. So they themselves are able to identify that. And as I said, they are supposed to identify the real world problem with a clear problem definition. And once they have a clear problem definition, which in fact they have to reach in 5 days of time with all the research. And so in this case, what generally happens is most of the students end up doing a desk research, but we force them to do Goob. Goob is go out of the building every day, right? So you always will have to go out of the building and meet the real user, identify, find out who exactly are the real user for the problem that you have identified, and meet them, try to understand them what exactly they are looking for. And the lean and agile approaches, right from the day one, we ask them to follow, and they're supposed to prepare a plan of 384 hours in detail, how they are going to use it, these 384 hours. So it is like an industry project that you are doing with a clear deliverables in a time-bound manner. See, most of the projects, as I said, are the real-world problem that the students are trying to solve. So, and in general, if you look at any services or any product where 80% of the users are using 20% of the features 90% of the time, and what is that 20% of the features students are supposed to identify? That is what their USP of the proposed solution is. And that helps them to understand what are the primary and secondary set of features that their product or service need to incorporate. So as I said, industry collaboration is a very case-to-case basis. We have subject matter experts who we invite them to conduct various sessions as well. And we invite them to review the projects and give a feedback as well. So that is in person as well as online. That is been continuously happening. Since this is a very intense and exhaustive course, right? So it is not like, say, you start at 9 o'clock and end at 5 o'clock. You have to keep on working on your idea to create what exactly you want to produce at the end of the course. So since this course is so intense, there are a lot of, since it is been taught at the bachelor level, so a lot of these graduate students going for masters abroad and choosing various areas for their masters, ranging from the emancipatory design to the social computing to the ubiquitous computing, depending on their area of interest. In fact, they end up choosing what they want to do ahead. But let me just share some of the example of work that students have produced. Yeah, so let me share the assessment and feedback mechanism before I share the outcome of this course. So since, as I said, this is a very deliverable focus course, so assessment is very clear. This is a 3-credit course, and assessment is around product, process, project management, and the presentation and the weightage, more weightage is given to the product and process, and not the project management and presentation. But presentation, not in terms of how you are making a presentation to the audience. The presentation is also about the documentation, how you're putting up the work in your portfolio, right? How you're preparing your document, which can be shared with the other people. So it is in fact almost about everything, right? So presentation is wherever your project is going, whether it is going in a file, whether it is going in a submission, whether it is going in a portfolio. So it is about everything. So it is 35, 35, 10, and 20: product, process, project management, and presentation. See, United's pedagogy is very interesting. As I said, 3-week means the students are going to work on this for continuously 24 days and 384 hours, which is 16 hours a day, which we expect the student to work on to produce something. And during these 3 weeks of time, we have an intense review and feedback sessions, which are going on. Let me share one project. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is not only a UI project. As I said, they have to ideate, they have to come up with a very unique idea which can be transformed into a concept, and they have to in fact build it like a professional project which has been built in the industry. So this project is about a pet care and the entire ecosystem about the pet care, and students will have to do research around this for almost every type of the stakeholders involved in the ecosystem of pet care. So this is why the only reason I'm sharing this project is during pandemic, this course was conducted entirely online. And this is an outcome of an 100% online course conducted during pandemic. Still, that girl has been able to create an amazing work. So project definition is very clear. Since they are graphic design students, so they also work on the identity and all these things. The process that they have to plan, as I said, they have to plan their 3 week, how much time they are going to spend on what activity, and what activity they are going to in fact do under each of these columns in terms of strategy, scoping, and structure and skeletal, and that needs to be planned. And once they have a clear problem definition, they do research, they do surveys, they meet people, they try to understand the domain, basically whether the problem which has been identified really is a problem or not. And after thorough research, like they conduct interviews, contextual inquiries, they send out forms to people, and they come up with what are those primary challenges these stakeholders are facing, which can be digitally solved. And then they do the brainstorming, the unique value proposition that they will build, and identify what all essential services which they would like to include in these platforms, and what are the pain points of each of these stakeholders, and also looking at broadly, are there any other similar products in the industries, and prepare a business model canvas looking at like how, if this is been proposed by some a company, so how they have to look at the partners, key activities, what is the value proposition here, and what are the customer segments, what are the revenue streams. So they try to build and understand the business around these as well. And then finally the personas, and they will do the user flow mapping. So this is where the process is very important, how user is going to traverse in your digital system. And then finally come up with the visual design of, in fact, designing every single screen. It is not about designing the 5 screens. Let me just browse towards the end, that it is almost designing every single screen. Even if you have the error, they are supposed to design that. So that is what, in fact, we emphasize on them. So you can see the professionalism in the work in terms of the content which has been placed on the page, right? So like say how the reviews should look. If someone is making a request, what exactly the labels and the language which is to be used on the screen. So everything is very, very professional. That is what we force on. So this is in fact about everything around the pet care, right? So it is like if you ask for a dog walker, this app has captured that as well. If pet owners would like to educate themselves, there are lots of workshops going on, they can educate themselves about as well. So it is in fact capturing every small aspect of the pet care ecosystem. So another project, so why I'm sharing these projects is, say UI UX is not about designing these screens, right? So UI UX is how you transform the idea into concept, and how you are considering the feelings of the users, and how you are able to create a value for them. That is very important. So see, the second project is in fact very socially very strong, right? So there are a lot of girls who are suffering from PCOS these days, and there are no good app which can help them. So, so this girl has identified a very interesting area, but initially she was struggling a lot, but after in fact a lot of reviews, feedback, discussions, she has been able to put up a wonderful work as far as the idea is concerned, and she has been able to in fact transform the idea into a very strong concept, and finally she has been able to make a good app as well. So you look at the amount of research these students are doing. It is not only about directly jumping on to developing an app, right? It is about understanding the full stack UX development process, right? So how do you transform from a very vague idea to a concept, and do a thorough research in terms of understanding the business technology, and then finally coming up with an app with a clear process model. So, and this is the work that I'm showing is a work which has been done in 3 weeks of time by the students, right? So it is in fact along with all the research, documentation, and finally the app that you are able to see, right? So this is a clickable prototype, which is I'm showing it from the student portfolio right now, right? So the way they have documented and they have put it on the student portfolio. And I, in fact, have more than 100 such examples, right? So every year I have 20 students of graphic design where I take them to a journey of 24 days, intense, 384 hours of UI UX introduction. And yeah, so in fact, I was told to in fact share one specific course, that what exactly happens inside the course. Since I have not talked about the framework, like, so I belong to new media design discipline, but I teach these courses in a graphic design discipline. And hence it has been designed in this way. Like, suppose if I'm teaching the same course to product design student, the course content will change. Or if I'm teaching to some other discipline, the course content will change. So in fact, there are a lot of good references that so as far as the tools are concerned, in fact, as I said, we do not teach the tools, but at the same time, students are expected to be quite good in using these tools. And there are a lot of things students may take some time to learn these tools. Like, it is so easy to learn Figma and XD, for example, but if you do not know the professional practices, how Figma and XD is used in industry environment in terms of how do you build components, or how do you build your own library, and how do you use these libraries and components in your work to increase the productivity. So we give specific 2-3 hours of workshop inputs on the tool to the students, so that they can increase their productivity during the development. Entire work of the student till they reach to a surface design has been done in a Miro board. So like, everyone can see it, they share it as well. And it has been maintained in terms of documentation as well at the same place. So it is easier for them at a later stage to transform that in form of document. So yep, so this is all from my side as well. I can take up questions if anyone.
Yeah,
has.
there are questions in the chat. Alapta is asking, what is the definition of a full stack UX?
Yeah, so full stack, yeah, let me just pause. Yeah, so full stack UX development is right from when you have an idea, right? How do you transform the idea into concept? And from there, how do you perceive a product or a service? And then how do you identify what sort of features are required? How do you understand users' goal or a business goals? And how do you incorporate that into your applications? And then once you have clarity about what 3 problems that you are solving, what are those 5 features that you want to focus on, who are your target audience, what is a business model, where exactly this product is going to be placed in the market, you know your competitors as well, and then developing a product, right? So that is a full stack UX development process that everyone need to understand it, right? So most of the time what happens is most of the UI courses focuses only on the surface, nobody focuses on the other aspect of it. Yeah, I hope I have answered the question.
Yeah, the next question is, what is the design validation process for these projects, the ones which you showed?
The design validation process, see, there are it is not about design validation process here. It is, in fact, since the students are working on a real world problem solving approach here, so everyone has a real world problem, right? So it is also about validating the product. It is about, like, if someone is working on a service, it is also validating a service. And see, design validation in terms of the surface and interaction design, we have the usability heuristic that we use, we have the interaction design principle that we use. But in terms of the review and feedback, we invite people from the respective domain to give the input that what else can be done, right? So for example, say the pet care project that I have shared here, that girl might have interacted with more than 10 experts in the same domain, right? So to get the correct input in terms of whether this domain has been able to incorporate all the features or not, right? So it is in fact about not only about design validation. It is a lot more than that, right? So since, as I said, this course is not only about UI, it is a lot more than that, right? So
Yeah. Shubham is a question asking, during research, are we also talking about sampling methods and the many statistical analysis?
So see, it is in fact when the students are in the ideation phase, because see what I have observed in last, I'm conducting these courses since last 8 or 9 years. One of the major hurdle most of the students have is to identify a problem, right? And for that, you to validate, you need to have some data to validate what you are thinking is really a problem or not. And we extensively use the open government data, which I don't know whether you guys are aware about that platform, which is data.gov.in. So that is an open government data where a lot of data is available for a lot of kinds of analysis. And that is in fact the first step for anyone to start their research journey and try making sense of, like say we have a 2 days workshop called making sense of data. So what you get from these kind of platform is raw facts. So we help them that how these raw facts can be processed to convert into data, and how data can be processed to generate some information, how you can process information to generate some knowledge, and how you can process knowledge to create some wisdom, right? So it is called the DIKW model. So making sense of data helps them to look at the smaller aspect of it, but it is not so intense in terms of detailed statistical analysis, right? So since, as I said, the objective of that of these course is not a statistical data analysis, but we help them with various tools which can be used and helpful to do that.
Rashmi has a question asking, many times students come up with similar ideas or problems which previous batch students might have done. So do you encourage them or show them earlier batch work and tell them to go research further, or tell them to choose a new idea?
Yeah, very good question. It happens every year. So being the anchor of the course, you literally have to help many a times to the student to give input on selecting different domain, different ideas. You in fact have to help them to become more creative, right? So in fact the first day we conduct a workshop of 1 hour brainstorming session to make a list of the things which you do not know, right? So the first step is you should know what you do not know, right? And what we call out of box thinking is an area wherein you try to do something where you do not know, right? So in fact we have an interesting exercises for a couple of hours, a list of these things which you do not know, which basically helps them to prompt and provoke them to think differently. And generally, in fact, out of 20 students every year, we have around 2-3 students who come up with those repetitive ideas. So we help them to come up with newer ideas. It happens, but generally we do not allow them to work on the same idea, right? They have to come up with every time newer things.
And the second question, which this limited time, how you encourage them to study user needs and preferences?
So as I said, every day they have to go out of the building, right? So every day they always have to go out, and if they are unable to identify the real world users, I help them in many ways to connect them with different institute and different organizations, but they always have to go out, right? So the UX project cannot be developed on the desk. Unless they go out, they will never come to know the realities right? So that is, in fact, has been enforced. We keep 2 hours goob every day.
All right. Any more questions? I think we're done. So thank you so much, sir. It was very insightful for all of us, definitely.
No, thank you very
And,
much, Rucha. Thank you very much.
yeah. I would like to request all of you to please switch on your cameras and click a picture. And Bhaumik, sir, if you could stop sharing the screen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just a minute.